Okay, I think we've got everyone here, or people are joining in. Just want to welcome everyone to the webinar, How Can Horses Teach People Leadership Skills? My name's Jackie Smith. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in a little while, and a bit more, obviously, about how horses can really teach us about ourselves in the role of leaders. This is my first webinar, so bear with me if the technical part doesn't go very well, but fingers crossed all is going well. And this is really designed to help organisations and individuals understand a bit more about equine assisted leadership development. Perhaps you've heard about it before, perhaps you've seen some of my posts and you're a bit curious about why I work with horses, and so this is just unpacking that a bit and giving you a bit more information about the work that we do. So I'll move forward. It'll take about 30 minutes, our presentation. I'll just click through back to me for a moment. Hi. Okay, so just giving you a little bit of information about me. My name's Jackie Smith, as I mentioned. I'm an organisational development and leadership development coach and consultant. I've been working in this space for 25 years or so, and I'm very passionate about experiential learning. I'm really keen to create opportunities for organisations and the individuals that work in them to learn through doing. I believe that's the most powerful way. We not only get insight into ourselves, but also retain that memory of those insights and start to actually shift and change our behaviour. So this is my fourth year of providing equine assisted leadership development and team building programs as part of my consultancy practice. I'll just flip back to the slide so that I can just walk you through the presentation. There we go. Here we are, back again. All right, yep, so that's me. All right, so why do we work with horses? Look, there are several reasons why. The main thing being that we can't be anything. We need to be authentic in order to show up to the horses, and that's often what leaders are being required and being asked of more and more these days, is bringing our true selves into our role of a leader. Gone are the days, you know, in the 80s where it was, 80s and 90s, where the training was more around putting on that mask and actually acting professional and being in the role of the leader. Now it's much more about who am I as a person in that role of being a leader. And so the horses are really good at recognising whether we're being our true selves or whether we're actually acting in a role. And I'll explain more about that in a little while. So if we just go through that in a bit more detail, horses are herd animals. So in the natural world, they live in groups and they survive and thrive because they're in groups. So they're obviously preyed upon by predators, and so they look out for each other. They have very strong social and emotional skills, and therefore if you apply that to an organisation, you can learn a lot as in a team environment. You can actually see the horses in herds as a role model for an effective team. My background is in organisational dynamics and understanding team dynamics, and so it's a really perfect metaphor for an effective team. The other reason I work with horses is because they create an example of an embodied leadership style. So what that means is we're often in our heads and we're thinking and we're problem solving and we're planning in our heads, but we're not often connected to our bodies, and we're missing a whole lot of information about what's actually going on in the moment. So one of those examples is non-verbal communication. So we know that the majority of our communication is transmitted and received non-verbally. So it's not what we say, but it's our tone, it's our posture, it's our energy and our intention that comes through as the message to what others receive. And that's certainly the case with horses. They communicate non-verbally through all of their bodies, and they use their bodies. And when we're with them, we can learn to use our bodies to pick up informations and subtle cues, and to learn more about how can we lead from a place that has all of that information, our mind, our heart, and our body. The third reason why we work with horses is because they're prey animals. So in this case, what that means is they're sensitive to threats in the environment. So they have this heightened awareness skill that's really valuable to pick up and sense what's actually going on. So when we step into their environment, they are very responsive to the new energy that we have when we're in with the herd or one-on-one with the horses. So we'll get immediate feedback about what non-verbal cues are we giving off, and that can really be quite revealing for some people. What I mean by feedback is, a lot of the horses we work with are able to be free to choose whether so they're not on lead ropes. They might move closer, they might move further away, they might turn their head closer if they're curious, they might turn their head away if they're feeling something's not quite right. There's all these signals, the ears, the tail, the shifting of the body that we talk about in our programs to watch out for. And what that does is it also starts to hone your awareness skills and your listening skills and your noticing skills, because in the busyness and the rushness of life and work, we often don't stop and actually look at what's going on around us and what messages are other people sending us about their receptiveness right now. So that's one of the real benefits of working with horses in the moment, is we'll get that information about ourselves, how we're showing up, and we build better awareness skills. The other reason that is one of the key benefits of working with horses is they have great capacity to regulate their emotions, and we can learn a lot about this. Neuroscience will tell us that we're often in our fight, flight, stress mode. There's a lot of people that are just heighten their stress and then aren't able to actually decompress that. And so the horses are very good at being alert and aware when there's a threat, and then, as we say, going back to grazing when there's not. And they use their body for that. So they use their breath and their body, and they shake, and they actually, that settles down their nervous system. And we can learn a lot about that in the workplace that will make for more healthy workplaces. So these are just a few reasons why. How it works, well, it's a learn through experience workshop environment, which means there's a lot of hands-on active engagement with the horses, and that's with the horses as a group, with the horses one-on-one, in pairs, in teams, depending on the program. But the main thing to know is the horses are all selected because they're so perfect for the work. There's no horsemanship knowledge required or experience. We don't get on the horses at all. It's all from the ground, and they're safe horses to work with because they're familiar with the equine assisted learning work. So there's four other reasons why it's so impactful. One is it takes people out of the workplace and into nature, and straight away that's a different sensation for them, and opens up their all of their senses working, their smell and their hearing and their sight and their touch through contact. And so being in nature is also enabling people to just leave behind any of the distractions of work. And we do talk a lot about the importance of being fully in the present in all of our programs. And being out in nature really supports that. And the way of the horse, that really encompasses what I spoke of before. There's many qualities of a horse that is that we talk about and that you get to experience and practice in our programs. The authentic feedback we've spoken about as well. There'll be a bio reading device, if you like, and and the learn by doing. So we're not just talking about leadership, we're actually practicing leadership and practicing different styles of leadership in the program. So horses act as a mirror to our behaviour. We will be able to see their responses as being authentic to what it is that we're portraying. So these are just some of the things that we look at doing when we're in our programs. This is an example of a leading through relationship exercise we're doing in pairs. And you'll see in this picture that one of the standouts is that, you know, the horse is walking. You'll see, yes, they've got a lead rope there, but it's not a pulling lead rope. It's a walking alongside, which means that the horse is following of its own accord. And you'll also see that the other participant there is offering that lovely support and encouragement, and that's also something that we work with. Here's an example of a program that focuses on teamwork and communication, and this is around working together. And you'll see that the people here have come up with some creative ideas to encourage that little horse to go over that reasonable size jump, and then there's others that are, you know, standing alongside the horse to give it support and encouragement. So we do little experiments like this where they say, will bribery work in this case? You know, how about, and some other participants have jumped over the jumps in order to, you know, lead by example. And as I mentioned, mindfulness, so a really big aspect of all of the work that we do is to help support people to come into the present and leave behind all their distractions in the past and their planning in the future, and just really be grounded and arrive into the program, which opens up their capacity for learning. And also is a really critical part of working with horses is we need to really be right there and attentive to them in order to be safe, and also to build the relationship and the connection that's needed to then invite them to follow. All right, so I just wanted to give you an example of some of the applications of equine assisted learning development in organisations, and you can see that there's a variety of things that I can do and my team can do. We always bespoke design programs, so we would work with what your objectives are, and then we would build a program around that. And some examples are mindful leadership. So that is really about helping that arrive, be present, and notice when you are present what you can observe, and therefore what choices you can make that are based on what you're seeing in front of you. And the difference between that and rushing into a room and just starting to actually talk to people without actually seeing what's really real. So we contrast, you know, not being very mindful in my leadership style, and what would it be like if I was more mindful? How has that impacted my ability to lead the horses? And then how might that work when I go back into the workplace? Leadership impact is in a similar way, of course, always starts with awareness, and then starts working on understanding more about our body and that body language, and how we can actually start to lead with much more focus, intention and purpose. We work with emotional intelligence, of course, always focusing on self and others and the environment in terms of building our awareness and our ability to regulate our emotions when they come up, and to build empathy and connection. Body language and the energetic influencing skills that relate to all those non-verbal cues, and learning more about what we can do to shift and change those, and seeing the effects of that unfold right in front of us. We also design programs based on learning more about communication skills, and particularly active listening and the importance of listening, and deep listening with the open, curious need to know what's actually happening. Coaching and performance, so that's around setting clear boundaries. So that's what is our yes and what is our no, what are we okay with and what are we not okay with, and how much do we allow people to step over us, or how much do we enforce our expectations of others, and how can we do that in a non-aggressive way. So we really look at working with boundaries and expectations in this session. And authentic leadership. So that's really around who am I and who am I in the role of leader? What are my values? And how do I see those values playing out when I'm in my relationship with the horse and when I'm working with the horse through some of the leadership challenges we give. And that's limiting beliefs. So there might be some limiting beliefs that get in the way of me being able to be the person that I want to be in my leadership role, which is I have to be perfect, or I'm not good enough, fear of failure, those sorts of things. So we can unpack some of those in those particular programs. And managing change is also a focus of our program. So we've worked with the Immunity to Change model before, and creating safe to fail experiments, if you're familiar with that model. And of course, all of these are just examples, and some of these are weaved through. In a one-day program, we might cover several of these options, and if it's a longer program, we can design anything from a half day to a full day, and then we can also integrate it into 3 days, 5 days, or 1 day a month for 3 months, something like that. So it's all very flexibly designed to meet the needs, as it would with any learning program that's on offer. All right, so this is just an example of some of the organisations that my team and I have worked with, and that would include directly doing an experiential component of some of the leadership development programs. So these might be 6-month, 12-month programs, and we come in and run a day every 12 months for the program. We also partner with as an associate with the Melbourne Business School and Ben Delta Consultancy, and can also partner with others. So if they're designing a program, we'll come in and do our experiential component with them. We partner with conference centres and venues, and we also deliver like part of a conference. So it might be great on the first day to get the team all together, build trust and communication and authenticity that sets the scene for a really different type of strategic planning conversation in the following 2 days. So that's found to be pretty successful that way. We also run one-off workshops as needed, maybe a team day or just a communication skills day or something like that. So it's all very based on the need of the client. That's just an example of one of my teams at the end of their program. And when I say me and my team, yes, I'm the program leader, but depending on the size of the group, I will bring in other facilitators, and I choose facilitators that are trained in equine assisted learning, but are also very highly qualified and experienced leadership facilitators of their own accord as well, so that we really work with a deep understanding of organisations and of leadership development and team dynamics, etc. And then we also partner with equine specialists and facilities who help work with the horses and bring a depth of knowledge and experience, as do most of the facilitators we work with around horses and herds, and have been working with them most of their lives. And of course, that's the other members of our teams. This is just one of the herds. We've got many herds around the country we work with, and we always talk about the value of the horses as a co-facilitator and a partner of the work. So their thoughts and feelings and behaviours and how they're showing up is very important in our work, as well as working with anything that might come up for them. So, if a barrel falls over and they have a bit of a fright, then how can we actually help them to work with that in the moment might be an example of what we do. And then that can teach us too about what happens when something is unexpected and sort of shocks us a little bit, and how do we actually work with that in a way where we're getting to learn through that experience and not just, rescued from it. So that was just an example that happened in one of our workshops over the last couple of months. This is another herd that we work with out at the Southern Highlands, which is a really stunning facility. So we work around Australia, and these are just some of the examples of the places that we've worked from and can work from. And then there's also, as a need comes up, we can often find an appropriate venue as well. Some beautiful spots. And here are the some of the conference venues that have engaged me to be the provider of equine assisted learning programs. So people who have attended some of these conferences would come out by minibus to our venue and go through a program for the day and then come back in. In a similar way, they might do other team building activities, but in this case, it's kind of got a much more skills building and I think longer term value to the organisation. So if you haven't seen this video before, it's on my website. If you have seen it, feel free to jump out of the webinar now. And if you've got any further questions or interest about the work, please contact me, Jackie at jackiesmith.com.au, or visit my website. That's I'll just quickly click through that. So that's the information there about how you can reach me. And then I'll just go back and play this video as the end and look forward to speaking to you again. Oops, didn't work. Oops, sorry about that. It should work now. We know that effective leadership starts with understanding self. The more we understand ourselves and who we are in relationship to others, the more we can make conscious choices about how we want to be. Hi, my name's Jackie Smith and I'm an organisational change and leadership consultant and coach. And my career began in project management at a process, systems and structural level. I was involved in a lot of organisational change. Pretty soon what I worked out was that it's actually individuals' thoughts, feelings and behaviours that influence whether change was successful or not. I'm really passionate about supporting people to be authentic and to be at their best. My horse-inspired leadership and team development days allow people to learn about themselves through the relationships they have with the horses.
What I learned about leadership is that leadership involves many people, it involves relationships and the ability to connect with others. I'm going to ensure that I build those relationships and connect with others and understand their perspectives when I work with them as a team.
The programs are horse-inspired, so we take the learnings from how horses are when they're in herds and natural settings and we apply that to teams. Over the past 4 years, I've been really curious, fascinated about horse and herd dynamics. Horses have a lot of social and emotional skills that are really relevant to humans. Skills such as being aware of self and others, of being clear with our communication, of being respectful and trusting in relationships, and of also having very clear roles. Being outside and in nature really supports a more relaxed and open form of learning.
The challenge of really stepping out of your comfort zone and making sure that, you know, everything that you do on a day-to-day basis is not necessarily comfortable, but is challenging. And today was a real eye-opener into how to step out of that comfort zone. So I'll be taking that back to set a challenge each day to make sure that I don't work within that comfortability zone, but really step out of the box and try to be adaptable.
Horses respond to our body language and our intention. It's what you do, not what you say, that evokes the response from the horse. And you can play around with and adjust your behaviour and notice how that horse changes in response to you, right in front of your own eyes.
I learned that the respect that I build as part of day-to-day is critically important for leadership, that being able to read the non-verbal communications is also very important to develop as a leader within the business.
I offer transformational programs for leaders and their teams that challenge current thinking and allow for both personal and professional growth. I work with clients to identify what their goals are and priorities, and I custom design a program to suit. Equine assisted learning is a powerful and memorable experience. It's not easily forgotten, and when you get back to the workplace, you can always recall those moments that you've had.
I'd recommend it to all organisations that want to develop adaptable leaders.
There's a lot of innovation with the process, with the horses. Difference is normally good, and innovation is always good for any business.
Imagine the difference if we could all be more connected, more aware, and more respectful in our relationships, both at work and in life. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining into the webinar today, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you.